Welcome to Grover Load. I'm Anthony, and here we go. This is going to be interesting because the FTC is reviving its internal, as WCCF puts it, lawsuit against Microsoft. I think it's more their internal review of the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And I will post this link in the description below, so go check it out over at WCCF Tech that they have here, and we'll switch over to that because Microsoft does put in here, we still anticipate that we will close a transaction by October 18th, and we have full confidence in our case that the deal benefits gamers in competition. Now, if you followed me in this huge amount of $70 billion acquisition, you know that I don't necessarily agree that it will benefit gamers and competition. I do have my reservations on there because we've seen a lot of times where Microsoft hasn't put their best foot forward. You see what was kind of gone with Skype, they bought that. Nokia, oh, wait, where are they in the market? That was removed from the market. It's some back in some capacity, but it was a huge staple there. We've seen other things, and we've seen a slow build up to where games are released. We've even seen Microsoft come out and say, we don't have to launch a new console with, these AAA games. Now, I will say they did just came out with Starfield, and that looks like to be a hit. Here, but I have my reservations because Microsoft doesn't always put there, and they've been known to kill stuff off, and replace it with something that, or not even replace it, right? And that is a concern I have if you're looking for something that benefits gamers and is competitive. But a lot of these regulatory bodies did not do it. Now, going through, right, the FTC here is basically can't at this point stop the acquisition from happening. They have lost the preliminary injunction already, but they can continue a review on if this needs to go a little bit further, maybe split up or do something else with this. So they are reviewing that now. The CMA did have a kind of stoppage where they didn't approve it, and that looks like it's going to be, resolved by Microsoft selling those gaming rights to Ubisoft. And they issued a massive lawsuit against Amazon, alleging that the online retailer and technology company is a monopolistic that uses a set of interlocking, anti-competitive, and unfair strategies to legally maintain its monopoly power. As for the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal, FCC won't be able to stop the closure, and continues an internal hearing and potential seeking to unwind the deal afterwards. Now, that we'll switch back here, but that is an interesting point, right? I've studied the whole like Standard Oil and telephone kind of breakups that happened here in the U.S. way back before my time, right? And I think we kind of forget a lot of that breaking up of what kind of happened, basically because many of us weren't even alive, right? And in there, right, this could come to something like that maybe down the future. I don't know if they have a leg to stand on here, the FTC. You do see the Amazon people like, well, what is Amazon going to do? Just do different regions? Well, they did that with with the telephone companies. That's what literally happened. They had different regions. Now they all got swallowed up again at some point, or a lot of them. You still have some different ones there, but these are things that did happen. I mean, you could even see with Amazon what happens if something were to get split up. And I know that this is not with Microsoft. I'll touch on them next. AWS, Audible, all these things start. Their video servers. It's just shopping, and they just say all this is going to be split up. There is ways to do this, and don't put it past the government to, when they think of something, they get their heels dug in, that they're going to just, do it. Sometimes it just happens that way, for better or for worse. It just happens that way. But, with this Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal, if they were truly worried about competition and stuff, even some of the leaks that came out, right, we would have to close down, Xbox if we don't see the growth pattern. They're not going to really have that option. If they do, they're going to come. I mean, I think if they were to, let's say, close down Xbox after all these acquisitions and they don't reach their markers and do all this, I think what is going to come from the government side of them destroying competition at that point would really hurt their other businesses, because I could see the government saying, you are really, you went and you swore up and down this is going to increase competition, help out gamers, and now you're closing off more IP for gamers. Well, here it is, Windows stripped, Azure stripped, we're breaking all this up. Yeah, Bing separate, your server section separate, your device is separate. We're breaking this all up, and there was not going to be a thing called Microsoft anymore, right? Does it get to that point? Now, in all of this, how I'm kind of thinking about this is that, Microsoft's going to close this deal and start to integrate. And we will see the results of if Microsoft is committed to gamers. And that is my real concern, right? And that is where I hope Microsoft is that we will be committed to gamers. We're going to put out AAA titles. We have enough IP now to do, 4, 5, 6 good games a year that are going to be big hits. And, that's where it should kind of get to at some point, right? Getting this good IP out, getting games. I haven't, jumped into Starfield besides starting it up, right? I have a code for it. I didn't, computer upgrade. It came with that computer upgrade. The person didn't want it, so he's not a gamer. I said, I'll try it. So I've booted it up. That's how far I've gotten in the game. But I think that you have this opportunity where you're able to put it out. I mean, I had fun playing Halo Infinite, right? Another, my friend, he went through it. I was encouraging him to play it. He enjoyed it. So there's these games that if you were to come out with this and start, releasing them, you finally then have the competition that the gamers want, which is you're benefiting gamers with what they want is more IP, more games to play that they're into, right? And I'm not saying every game has to be the same, but you're going to come up with games then, even if it's a few AAA titles, let's say 6 AAA titles a year. Guess what? That's covering maybe a lot of different game types that then different gamers are going to be attracted to. Not every gamer plays every game out there, and this could be a huge benefit. But that's me taking a look at this of where I hope Microsoft goes now at this point. There's no use me dwelling on the past of where I wish it was, right? Because I hope that I really want the gamers to benefit out of this deal. And based upon what Microsoft did in consolidations in the past, is that they didn't necessarily keep up the competition or keep the benefits that were happening because of that competition. Microsoft does get a little lax in their side of things, and my only hope is that they do push and they do, keep up, Activision, Blizzard, King, they keep up the, work to get more games out. They have Bethesda and what is it, I'm blanking on that overall company that they bought there. They have the Xbox IP and some of the other stuff that they've had in the past. All of these kind of go through and, be put together to deliver what gamers want, which is a portfolio of games every year being released. So you have gamers that go through it and play stuff, right? Another thing is Microsoft, as we saw in that leak, wants Game Pass to really take off. Well, if you want Game Pass to take off, you're going to have to deliver enough games so that people are attracted to being, attracted to Game Pass, right? For me, it doesn't make sense. I'm not in the gaming ecosystem enough. I don't play enough games, and I have a backlog of games that I like to play. So it's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, I need to get to, and I need to have that. But I think that, let's say you have somebody that plays a lot of games and likes to play and try out different games and do that. If you're coming out with 6 games a year or something that they're playing with, they can jump in those AAAs and then everything else on top of it. Then all of a sudden, I think that it's a very attractive point to be able to jump into there, and that's going to be able to help your growth. I get Microsoft thinks that cloud gaming is going to be a huge growth factor, but I think that um, if they just focus on that and leave out the gamers that have their systems, have their consoles, there's going to be a big missing goose egg there when it comes down to it. And they go, looking, we're doing great on our cloud. Let's say this happens, and they go through and they'll be like, we're doing great on our cloud gaming, but we're really suffering in the big piece of the market where people seem to be still playing on their desktops, and PCs, and still playing on their consoles, and those aren't growing where they should have been based upon people that are logging in and playing games. And those are the things that you're going to have to hit on Microsoft to really hit it home that, yes, I support the gamer, and yes, I'm delivering value. So let me know what your thoughts are on this, if the FTC is going to be able to do something like that, if it goes, further, and if you think that there's any potential, breakup or everything else. You always hear this every couple of years. You remember Microsoft had that huge fine that with the government, and in the EU you have it where you had to display what browsers and windows you could select. I think that you have that now on Android in the EU area. So there's all these things that could add up, and it's just going to be a wait and see to see what the FTC is really going to hit home about with this, or if it's just going to be a toothless threat, and that's all this is. So we'll see. I'm going to be watching it. I don't have a really incline of what's going to. The Microsoft deal, I think, they're going to go through, and they're going to get the merger done. Everything's going to be starting to incorporate it. I've heard people say that it's almost, as soon as you start incorporating things, it's very hard to untangle stuff. No, it doesn't. If you're told to untangle stuff, you'll figure it out. It's not really, oh, it's impossible. No, it's going to be figured out, right? It's software, it'll get figured out. So yeah, that's all I have. At some point though, I do hope that, as games get older and everything else, let's say you put a patch out, put DRM off of it, all this other stuff, so that we do have these IPs in the future to be able to still play them and enjoy them later on. These, I call them almost artworks, and, enjoying it, but we'll see how that goes. I don't like all this DRM that has a potential of us losing a huge section of games forever, which would be a really devastating thing to happen, especially if you like to go back and play older games like I do. So thank you so much for watching and supporting Gray Overload. I really do appreciate you supporting this channel and helping this channel grow. It really does help. Like, sharing, subscribing, hitting the bell icon really does help out. Really does. And until next time, God bless.